Hello, and welcome to my first attempt at doing a little bit of PD using a video. I decided to go this route because more people than I had anticipated responded and said they were interested in the book pass. And I just don't have time to bring this together as a full group. And I was worried I would miss someone or some point if I tried to do this one-on-one. So please bear with me as I do my first attempt here at some PD via video. So let's get started. Before we talk about the actual procedure of the book pass, I just want to applaud you for even considering doing some independent student choice reading in your curriculum. It can be a little scary to relinquish that amount of control and let them read what they want, because not only do you lose that control, but you also have to rethink how you do some of your instruction with skills because you're not all reading the same thing. And if you're willing to take the step and try to work this in, I am more than happy to be there right beside you. I am doing this in my classroom. So hopefully I'm like a step ahead so I can try it and fail at it and tell you what I did wrong so that when you guys try to work it in, you can learn from my mistakes and do a better job. So if you haven't already, I do suggest that you check out this book, Book Love by Penny Kittle. It gives a little bit of information, some really good information about using independent reading and student choice reading in your classroom and the benefits of it. One of them being, we know, it breaks our heart, but we know that the students don't always read the books that we assign them. So the idea here is if they have some voice in that decision, the hope is that they will actually read. And maybe they're not reading what we want them to read, but reading something is better than reading nothing. And that's kind of the idea, kind of sums that up. It goes obviously into much greater depth. It's a great read. I don't agree with everything in this book, but there are a lot of fantastic points that I absolutely agree with. So I do suggest checking it out. And I am hoping that I can convince the district office to give me some professional development money so we can do a book study for anyone who might be interested. So cross your fingers. Once you've read Book Love, I then suggest that you check out Disrupting Thinking. This is another one that I'm thinking about for the book study. It's a nice companion to Book Love, but I do recommend that you read Book Love first. Okay, so what is a book pass? It is exactly what it sounds like. You literally pass books. So in the traditional sense, what it looks like is students walk into the classroom and sitting on their desks are stacks of books. They sit down. They have a couple of minutes to look through every book on their desk. It's a short stack. And then after the time is up, they literally pass that stack of books to the next student until you work your way around the entire classroom. They get their hands on books. They get to kind of leaf through things. They get to see what's available and hopefully make some decisions about what is a good match for them. This is great if you have an extensive classroom library, which we don't have, which is why I worked with Ray to do a book pass in the library. It looks just a little bit different. So what happened with the book pass in the library is the students walk in into that back section. So you're kind of sectioned off from the students who are in there, working on other things. And I had, in my case, 7 different tables that Ray had done an excellent job of just stacking hordes of books onto. And what's nice is he also made each table a different genre, different category. So all the books on this table were science fiction, and this table were all nonfiction, memoirs, whatever it might be. So he was able to kind of set that up, which was a nice treat. So the students come in, they sit down, they get X number of minutes to look through the books on their particular table. When time is up, instead of passing the books, they get up and they move to the next table. They have access to way more books doing it this way than you could have done even if you had an extensive library in your own classroom. So it was a nice workaround to not having those classroom libraries. Some key points. So you don't just walk in and say, okay, go sit down, look at books for 4 minutes and then move. You need to have some organization done on the front end. I strongly suggest that you make their groups. I put 4 in a group. I had several different tables. I had 28 kids last year in that particular class. So I put them in groups of 4. I was very thoughtful to break apart kids who I knew would be social about things other than books. And then I also spread out my kids who I knew were avid readers. I wanted to get someone who I knew was reading on their own for fun, spread out through the classroom in the hopes that they would then engage in conversations with their classmates about books they were reading. Also, be clear about your signage. This can be just as simple as putting a piece of paper on every table that says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. they cannot, they try, but they have a hard time following simple directions like this table goes here, that table goes there. If it's numbered, you just say 1, go to 2, 2, go to 3, and so on. As a teacher, it's your job to keep the time and really kind of keep your eye on that clock to make sure that the kids are able to rotate through every table. I think I was trying to think back. I believe my class did about 4.5 minutes at each table. This gave them enough time to get in, get set up, rotate through all the tables, and then still have time at the very end to do some checking out. And it accounted for that transition time, excuse me, in between the tables as well. Also, as a teacher, I highly suggest that you walk around while they're doing this and engage in conversations about the books on those tables. You stop and you say, I read this one. I loved it. Here's like a 20-second recap of what I loved about it. If you see a book you didn't love, you share that as well. I read this one. You know what? It did not capture me. I thought it was slow. Maybe you like that topic. I don't, whatever. But you take the time to actually talk about books, which, I mean, come on, we're English teachers. That's like our dream come true. And then you encourage them to talk to each other as well. And that's why you spread out those avid readers. What I found is that they very naturally started to socialize around their books. It was fantastic. A lot of kids said, oh, I read that, or, ooh, that looks good, or, hey, have you ever read this one? Or I saw that movie and it was about this. Like, they start to talk about the books on their own very naturally. And then finally, you need a someday list or some form that will help them keep track of the books that they're looking at. This is important because they will not remember. And you want them to walk away with more than just one book for that one particular assignment. You want them to have an entire list they can keep going back to so that it's not a one-off, that you get them in the habit of reading. The someday list can be real simple. The example that I have here, I have 4 different categories. 1, books I definitely want to check out. 2, books I might be interested in. 3, books I've already read and their rating, because then you can tap into that and have them share that with the class later on. And 4, books I'm definitely not interested in. And it's fine if that last category is filled, as long as they have some other books in the other categories. Remind them to write down the title and the author. You'll be surprised at how often they don't do a good job with that. And I'd say set a minimum goal. Say, hey, we're going to be doing this for 30 minutes. You better have at least 25 titles on your page, whatever number you think is reasonable. So you're going to notice that, I have to say, Ray does an excellent job of putting like appropriately leveled books on the tables. But if you're truly making the student choice, kids are going to bring in things from outside, which is fine. So the 2 things is, what if it's too hard or what if it's too easy? Well, if it's too hard, you say, give it a try. If it doesn't work out, you say, okay, then abandon it and get a different book off your list. It's, kind of that simple. That requires us to kind of make a mind shift, maybe from you have to read X number of books to you need to be reading X number of pages. That's a shift for some people. I'm making that shift this year, so I'll let you know how that works out. I'm being very aware of their reading rate up front, and I'm setting them page goals instead of book goals. And that's my hope of kind of working around the fact they're all reading different things. The other thing is, what if it's too easy? Well, we all at times like to read books that are just brain candy, so maybe that's where they're at. Maybe they just read something really hard and now they want to read Nicholas Sparks or whatever. But also, I think oftentimes when a student has chosen a book that we know is too easy, it's because they're a non-reader. So that's that moment we have to say, you know what? At least they're reading. And at least this gives us an in. And now we can encourage them to up their game next time. But just be grateful that they're reading. So here's the thing. You're like, okay, I want to give this a try. I'm at least intrigued. I will be doing a book pass during my 3rd period on September 13th. If you're off, not many of you are, but if you're off, you're more than welcome to come down and watch. If you're interested in doing your own book pass, I talked to Ray and I said, hey, it'd be great to try to kind of get everybody in the same couple of days, because that way everything is already set up for us. So if you can do it around September 13th and 14th, I have already emptied out my calendar for those 2 days so that I can be down there with you just to have another set of hands, help with the organization, be another adult walking around, talking about books with kids, whatever it is. I can maybe do more days. I just need to know like well in advance so that I don't have anything else clog up my calendar for you. I think that's it. If you have questions, you come find me. I promise to not respond just in video. I will actually talk to you. And I do want you to know that if you are in with this idea of working independent reading, student choice reading into your curriculum, that it is my intention to have a CLT group form this year that we meet a few times just to kind of talk through what we've tried, what's worked, what hasn't worked, just kind of support each other through that. But if you have any other questions, please let me know. And thank you for even taking the time to listen to me chatter on here and even considering making a change, because it's not easy.